Into the Nexus is a production of amove.tv. Bookmark Amove TV for other great video games and esports podcasts. Into the Nexus is sponsored by listeners like you via patreon.com/ITN. Greetings and welcome back, everyone. This is Into the Nexus, the podcast all about Heroes of the Storm. I'm Garrett Weinzierl. He's Kyle Fergusson. Kyle, man, happy Thursday. I know you're like traveling immediately after the show. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm going to Seattle to play board games tonight.
That sounds...
to be a proper hipster.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Did you make new friends? Have you always had friends that I didn't know about, or what?
Oh, old college buddies actually live in Seattle now.
Oh, sweet. Ah, that's always fun.
I had an awesome week of Heroes 2. I took it mad casual, man. It was release of some fun skins, and voice chat wasn't working last week, and now people are kind of like, well, voice chat wasn't working, so why don't we just not talk? So, it's a quick match, and it's been a fantastic week.
I've been doing basically the same thing, man. It's been good. It's been relaxing. I'm me, so I get tilted still, even in quick match from time to time. But overall, I'm just like, yeah, what am I working on? Who's close to leveling? Let's get that number larger.
It's been good. I mean, there are a lot of nub Alarax and Gul'dans in the world right now. So if you can play one of those decently, you've got a pretty good leg up in quick match at the moment.
Yeah. I don't blame them. Those skins are sweet.
Yeah.
They're really nice looking. It's a shame that they're for two heroes I have zero interest in playing.
They're hard heroes, and outside of Alarax, Telekinesis, Self-Push, they definitely are some heroes that are lagging behind in the mobility front, and certainly doesn't make them easy to play.
Yep. If we were having this conversation before Phoenix came out, I'd say, yeah, that's, it's fine. It's fair. We've gotten some low mobility heroes fairly recently, but no, Phoenix came out. So we've all learned bad lessons.
Phoenix is still just a powerhouse, just a quick match machine. It's interesting, though, to look at our releases and see some of that mobility creep coming through. I was honestly surprised to look back and see that Gul'dan was released before Alarak. And Alarak was a part of that Zarya Braxis event we had. And meanwhile, we are dealing with it, right? Like, we had the patch last week, part of Deckard Cain, that talked about your changed up Genji. We're going to talk about that soon. And I also was doing some research this week into what's going on with League of Legends. And this has been a problem they've had for a while, but there is an ability in League of Legends called Flash. And the way they're sort of what was previously our artifact system works is you have these buffs, these sort of gems you put in slots outside of the game, and those give you powers in-game. So you sort of level up your hero, have an edge over people who haven't played as much.
I feel like we need to pause and maybe take a moment and inform listeners that didn't play during the Tech Alpha that Heroes of the Storm had a system like this very briefly during the alpha testing phase, because we all set the forums on fire when this system was added.
We weren't pleased. The idea of spending your hard-earned gold to get a 1% damage increase over your enemy was seductive, but ultimately, oh my goodness. I mean, we talk about, I wish I could show off my master skin. Well, can you imagine having to drop 50,000 gold so that you can get your Kerrigan on par with your enemy?
Yeah, I am not a fan of that system. As very early episodes of this show have pointed out.
But to what's happening over at League of Legends, they have this flash gem, if you will, that allows a short-range teleport. And basically every single hero has to have it. Because why wouldn't you? I mean, can you imagine if you could go through and say, yeah, Deckard Cain? Why not Blaze? Is there anyone you wouldn't want a short-range teleport on to add to their kit?
No.
Like, there's maybe a hero like Illidan that you'd be like, maybe I can get away with it and take something else. But
even like Abathur, who I shouldn't be caught out, period, on, I'd still like it for when I screw up.
So there's no reason not to take it. So it's fascinating that we are releasing a hero like Deckard, who feels like the second Lily, who keeps on trucking, but doesn't have that mobility on him. I feel like we're countering our own problems slowly, and that feels nice.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's interesting. I haven't been keeping up on League of Legends at all because I don't play it, but I'm glad.
Just a little bit in the news.
I'm glad one of us. Yeah, I saw headlines and I was like, I don't know what any of this means. Moving on. Oh, actually, I'll tell you exactly my thought. My thought was League of Legends really has badass art. Like, every time I see key art from League of Legends, I'm always like, oh, what game is... Oh, that's right, it's League. That's why I don't see it. That's why I haven't seen this art before.
But their characters are really well defined and can have some cool skins become that. But I honestly, of the games I don't understand, have to applaud Smite for its skins. That thing is always mixing up how their characters look in really creative ways.
I haven't played Smite since the very early days, and my thought of that game then and still is like, wow, there's a lot of cleavage in that game.
It was made kind of during that time period, right?
Yeah, it was like right at the tail end of the hey guys, shouldn't, regardless of gender, your armor be equally functional? It was before we started asking that question.
Yeah, but it feels like not until Mass Effect 2 in my mind did anybody really sit down and say, oh, wait a minute, having the armor curve in at the chest is just going to bust your sternum, you dummy. Don't do it.
Yep. Bad armor design. Design.
Not that like Alex Straza or Maev isn't sporting some armored bikini action, but...
Oh, yeah. And Tyrande as well. I mean, what's going on there? But
hey, speaking of that, man, I wouldn't want to take any shot straight to the nipple if I was Hanzo. I'd put on a shirt.
You make me think of like where I would choose to wear like pads during paintball when I was very young.
Yeah, or anyone has like an exposed skeletal structure. Cover that up. The sword's going to get stuck in your rib, and they're going to try to pull it out, and it's going to take half the ribs with it. Kel'Thuzad, Leoric.
Well, at the end of the day, I really just want Azmodan's nipples covered. They still bother me a lot.
I did think of the skin I really wanted this week. It's Undead Muradin.
Undead Muradin.
Like,
I mean, undead anything is cool.
Yeah, but more skeletons, you know?
Yeah, dwarves have... just cool, man. You're used to seeing like tall, skinny, spindly skeletons, so when you get a short, stocky one, it sticks out.
Yeah.
Did you watch Did you watch Fellowship of the Ring or something? There's a lot of dwarf skeletons in that movie.
There are. I also played Divinity recently, and that's packed with dwarven skeletons.
All right. Oh, yeah, you can play as one.
You can.
And they look great. Well,
I did an elf.
In Divinity, I believe I'm currently playing a human. Because their humans look good as opposed to World of Warcraft.
It's true. You get new human models. Those Kirin Tor. No, that's the
Kultirans.
That's it.
Yeah, we'll be getting them post-launch. So it'll be a while before we get to be pirate humans. For some reason, your camera has frozen up on me, Kyle.
It's a good face, though.
It is a great face.
I'll give it a restart, but it is a contemplative face for the internet to enjoy.
Well, while you do that, let's just move right into this week's news.
We're on, boys! Ha ha! Let's liven up this place!
Point me to the stage.
Stay a while and listen.
So we're going to talk about the impact of the Deckard Cain patch. Not necessarily Deckard himself, but we will start with a little Deckard talk. He's settled in at just below a 50% win rate, sitting at 47% at the moment.
Yeah, and it's important to note that we have officially entered the 2-week period is a must. We're not going to break our rules unless things are crazy weird. The dev team has slowed down, and there were no official changes this week outside of some bug fixes. But we can still go back, talk about some of the things we didn't talk about. And certainly Deckard Cain has settled into his own with a build you wouldn't expect.
No, I wouldn't. So let's bottomless flask. Okay, stay a while. I'm in there. But what's with the rest of this?
The stay a while and listen is a bit of a surprise. This build with Scroll of Identify, Stone's Curse, actually, and any 4 you want, has a 61% win rate, which is rather incredible. He also is very map dependent, it seems. We have a 52% win rate on Volskaya. Makes sense. You build that nice little sushi bar down there, all the potions going around in circles, running on time. In fact, this week, oh man, Scott, our healer, loaded up the conveyor belt with potions and then was chased by a Dahaka round and round. And he survived, and we all closed in on him. It was fantastic.
We were joking about that on with Dunk last week. I'm glad that it actually worked out in practice.
A viable strategy. And if you run backwards, the potions come to you faster, even though you're maybe not running away from that Dahaka. So great viability there. 46% on Dragonshire, so you can already see the objectives. One objective, Cursed Hollow. These kind of maps are going to be real good for Deckard. But anytime like Dragonshire, where you feel like you're going to be constantly split, one to be two places at once, very poor performance.
Yeah, he seems he wants to be at one point, right? And it's odd because when they announced him, they kind of pitched him as, oh, you can put potions in multiple lanes. You can technically heal across multiple lanes as a result of that. It does not seem worth the effort and the time that it takes to travel between lanes and drop potions. Because really, in the early game, when that type of behavior you would want that, it's just not worth it. The potions are used up instantly. We're not talking post level 20. How many times, if you go bottomless flask post 20, are you really going to be trying to empower split pushing?
Well, remember Boombox on Lucio when you could leave your aura behind in a lane, and we're all like, oh my god, so you can be healing the bottom lane while you skate around in mid lane? But we simply cannot excuse our supports to go wander off and get set up for something that's only going to last 30 seconds, or maybe even be replaced by his own potion casts in this case.
Yeah. Plus, healing, like everything else, like most of everything else in the game, it is highly positional, and the position where action is taking place changes from a second-to-second basis in a lot of cases.
It's been interesting to look at which heroes he's really succeeding alongside. And it is still along dive characters like Kerrigan and, of course, Maiev. And we've been doing the Tyrael kind of business for fun with some butchers and whatnot. We changed it up with some Illidan's. Did a double support Vala last night. That was a lot of fun with Deckard Cain. But he's really succeeding alongside people who can siege really well. Because when you make it to a wall, guess what you're not doing? Moving around. And so characters like Zul'jin, even Phoenix, of course, because of his high win rate, are doing really well. I mean, this is a above average performance of Zul'jin alongside Deckard Cain. And we can expect that sort of sieging into the future. Sadly, it's not happening with Hammer. Hammer's kind of in that weird spot after her rework.
I think it's more of an issue with Hammer than it is with Deckard.
Right. The two don't really make up for each other's weaknesses like Morales Hammer do.
Right. But that's interesting. I've had some really fun games with Deckard, even after no longer playing with on Brawl with the Blues.
Well, and here's an interesting statistic. His win rate goes from 38% at the 13-minute mark. Granted, you are getting completely destroyed if you lose in 13 minutes, up to 61% at the 30-minute mark.
I mean, is it that surprising? Bottomless Flask is just ridiculous.
It is powerful.
It's extremely powerful, especially when combined with Super Healing Potion at 13, and even just that, even without the Bottomless, the Super Healing at 13, it's such a spike.
They fixed a number of bugs with him this week too. That Rejuvenation Potion bug I talked about, where you were getting non-mana resources, Sonya's Fury, Zari Energy, Tracer Bullets. That's gone, as well as a bug, which makes a lot of sense as to why those things weren't being picked up. Your cube at level 4 would create with your gem these potions that would fly everywhere. But if a tank or any character was unstoppable, they couldn't pick them up.
Oh, I didn't know about that. That sucks.
Yeah.
I'm glad, and that got fixed. I'm glad that got fixed.
Yes, there were some very sad Garroshes probably, as well as Johanna's going, please, I'm so thirsty.
That's just rough. That is very rough. Have you been playing Deckard yourself?
Only a little bit, 1 or 2 games the past week. I got Scott's just loving Deckard, and I'm really happy that it fulfilled the fantasy. And of course, just playing with friends, doing the voices, making old man jokes, it's good stuff. Even if it wasn't viable, it was fun.
That makes sense. Chen is on the climb. to move away from Deckard for a bit.
Up 5.5%. Now, that's to 49% total. But this is mostly because of his recent additions to his kit of having some more spell armor. And in fact, we ran a Chen this week as well into a Nazebo Li Ming. By the way, for those who don't know, in a double tank meta, you can run double spellcaster because the tanks are providing the sustain. So particularly you gold leaguers out there, don't tilt when you get double spellcaster. We're in a double tank meta. The two tanks are wailing on people. Unless one of your tanks is Sonya, then it's all spell damage and you messed up. Sorry. You ruined it at that point, but you're not looking that far. You're just tilted because there's two spellcasters or two specialists. At any rate, they picked two spellcasters. We went Chen because of his really powerful spell armor and ended up eating through all that burst damage.
Wow. I kind of, Chen seems to me like the type of hero I would expect to see a climb after a rather tame change like that, because Chen doesn't seem to me like the type of hero that people would flock to as like a flavor of the week hero. He never really has been. Like in the early days when we first started looking at statistics, when Hot Logs first kind of started coming up in popularity, we always looked at Chen as like, oh wow, he used to be high in the win rate, but he always used to be very low in games played. So our joke on the show was always, oh wow, look at those like 5 Chen players. They're just killing it. They're very excited about this hero. But it's kind of what I would expect to see.
And we have a lot of high mobility but low CC characters. Even Tracer putting out a bomb, and that damage has decreased. So the amount of stuns going into Chen, purely in a draft, in wanting to play different heroes, isn't that much. So you pick up the Fortifying Brew, you pick up that freshest ingredient so you can have the shield afterwards, and you're going to be pretty powerful. You just got to make sure that the spellcasters you're countering aren't the ones sporting CCs, like Kael'thas.
Yeah. Which, let that be a lesson. Draft CC. Draft some CC. It's still good.
It is good.
Now, Chen is technically not from the Deckard patch, but moving back into it, Genji has gone up a little bit. He's still sitting below 50% at the stats that we can see, but he seems to be on his way back up. I think this is just Genji players getting used to the changes.
Right, and kind of a Tracer thing where we were like, oh, damage is going down. Guess Tracer's off the menu. The opposite. He got a little bit of health, making him a little easier to play. His engagements have to be more careful because the cooldown increase on his cyber agility jump. So people are taking more talents into cyber agility and sometimes skipping the Swift Strikes. Most people, honestly, right now are still running Swift Strike, Dragon Blade, and probably wondering why they're not getting resets when they kill with the Dragon Blade. Yeah. The winning population out there has started to switch over to cyber agility talents, and they're making good work of it.
And then we didn't address the Thrall bug, right?
No, this is new fix this week, and in fact, Thrall has dropped some 2% because of this fix. Apparently, Crash Lightning, the one everybody takes, was causing the bounces to prioritize heroes before the quest was completed. Which helps you complete the quest quite a bit. So
a lot, yeah.
Yes. It was a little powerful.
I gotta complete my quest so I can get the bonus I'm already receiving.
So you got the damage, but taking in the first place gave you a greater impact overall.
Right, exactly. And then we haven't really talked about the Warhead update, pretty much because it's not currently in the Hero League rotation, but it could come back in soon. So we should probably discuss what the hell happened.
Don't sound too sad.
I don't mind Warhead Junction. Yeah, no, I'm all for it. I mean, as a Zagara Sonya player, I'm fine with Warhead Junction.
Okay, that's believable. Is there anything that you'd trade out for Warhead Junction in the current map rotation? Because all the pros are looking at Braxis. If Warhead Junction gets fixed, if you will, which for this information is basically the boss is changed up to be less oppressive once it's taken, then they want to get rid of Braxis Holdout and go to Warhead Junction. So that's what's curious about this update.
I think I agree with them. I really liked Braxis when it was first introduced, but the more and more I play on it, the kind of more and more I kind of groan when I see it. So it's I don't know. It feels like a coin flip for me in my experience. I don't know whether I'm going to get the game where no one can ever get the pad and it's an extremely long, boring game, or you kind of wreck and stomp and always get the pad, and it's a very quick kind of unmemorable game.
The tough thing for me on Braxis is just that we have a large map rotation, and or at least I learned all my solo lane counters and exchanges in a previous meta. So I don't get to play on Braxis enough to know where Sonya is in solo lane right now, and if she's better than Dahaka, or if Ragnaros wins that, or that. It's such an important matchup to understand, and because the balance changes to these particular characters, it's a mystery every time.
Yeah, I'm not too sure either, dude. I mean, if you asked me a month ago, I would have said Volskaya, but I've really kind of fallen in love with it. It's strange. Really fixing that robot helped a lot.
Yeah, the robot feels more natural now. We aren't as reliant on the jump in, jump out strategy, and when it has a gunner, it feels great. So I agree with it. And plus, it's a single point control map, so it's fun. It's simple. It's not so complicated.
No, it's not. It's a good. It's like a team building exercise. It almost feels like
yeah.
Every few minutes, it's just all right. Everybody, we're gonna go do some trust falls down on this pad.
And because it lasts so long, it really encourages some strategy. Like when you're on point B, you can all wipe, take the time to get the camp, and then roll out with it, get a toe on the pad when it's at 99%, and then fight for it. It's really rewarding to take it slow. Whereas, kind of like thinking of old Curse Hollow, and even some of the quick match Curse Hollows I had this week, those things just keep butting heads one person at a time into the meat grinder.
Yeah. Yeah. But anyway, let's talk about the Warhead Junction changes. I mean, the big thing is the boss, right? They call it the slime boss, but it's a swarm host. We've had this discussion before. It's no longer going to burrow while defending. That's a big uptick in its damage output while you're trying to take it.
Yeah, and it no longer spawns any banelings. What it does is throws banelings into the air. I guess they call them pods, and they explode where they land. So kind of like your missiles coming out of Braxis boss or a lot of our other telegraphed abilities, you will see a circle. You shouldn't stand in the circle. And if you are a big boy like Diablo or Asmodan in the area, there's a high chance, particularly while defending against it, you might be get hit by two of these.
Yeah, I kind of like that better in theory, and I think they needed to make that adjustment since the boss no longer burrows, because the boss is going to be now actively beating you down the entire time you're trying to take the boss, right? So if you had banelings chasing you down in the middle of that at the same time, that seems kind of rough.
Exactly. One of the big changes here, too, particularly for esports and the defenders, is that it no longer has a slime trail, which means you're not encouraged to try to pick a fight around it as much. In fact, it now prioritizes buildings a bit more with its pods rather than spawning banelings that then chase heroes. So if left alone, the slime boss, the swarm host, will do massive damage just like any other boss does. Maybe even more damage to buildings. But if you're actively defending it, it should be an easier defense without a bunch of people trying to mess you up around it and get you into the slime or push you into a stun like on a Cursed Hollow boss.
Yeah, I think that's good. I mean, it brings it more in line with all of the other bosses in the game, right? And while it's cool, on one hand, there's an argument to be made for it. It is, I think, interesting that bosses behave differently. But on the learning curve side of things, I think it's better if the majority of the bosses are pretty close in one another and how they behave and what they can accomplish when they start pushing.
Well, and there's confusion there. When a baneling spawns and has a health bar, you don't know if you should kill it. And if you can kill it, and that's wasted DPS, and then we didn't get the boss in time. So I really like the ease of use that this introduces. Killing a Junkrat tire, high value activity, please do it. But killing a baneling, you don't know until you try, and then you normally didn't get through the health before it exploded anyway, so why not just let it instantly explode?
Also, maybe there's a hero with more summons coming down the road. Maybe summons that you can actually attack.
Maybe.
Yeah.
That'd be very interesting, since we've been hearing that summons are so difficult to make.
Yeah. This is just tinfoil hat time with me. But
no, I'd love it. I'd love it. But you know me, man. I'm waiting on Mal'Ganis here, so I want my Infernal.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe another Zagara type hero, because you can attack everything but the Banelings on Zagara, right? Yes. Can't target the Banelings.
Yeah, they changed that. I like the old Rainer penetrating around in those Banelings. He got rid of them when they were coming to your face. I did that for weeks.
It was so satisfying. But this was also before they changed it where you could do one Baneling at a time. You used to shoot all 4 Banelings together in a line.
That's right.
So it was very easy to hit the Banelings with the penetrating round because they were going single file anyway. But it was still satisfying as hell.
I forgot about that because you could spawn additional Banelings, but it meant you stood still longer spawning them, and it was an extremely dangerous talent to take.
Yeah, I mean, you could still increase the range, so it wasn't the end of the world, because you're probably throwing Banelings from off screen to your opponent. But yeah, I like it better this way. I like it a lot. When they first did it, I was like, I don't know about this, and now I'm so glad they changed it. I like just fanning them out when I'm in a panic situation. There's just a bunch of people.
I think that's one of the satisfying things about her. There's a lot of heroes like Gul'dan, who I played again this week and didn't enjoy until I did a Fell Flame build because it's spammable. Any points I put into corruption, I feel like they have to be such high value corruptions. I kind of stop having fun. I feel the same way about Thrall and Wolves. Every time I miss one, I'm like, I'm the worst guy on earth. I ruined everything. Oh my God. Get me off Thrall, please. But Thralls miss all the time. They go on with their lives. They're happy with their contributions.
Yeah, are you like me? So Vala and Thrall very similar in the way that you miss your skill shots. Why does Vala feel worse? Does Vala feel worse to you?
No, it doesn't. But that's funny.
To me, like missing a Hungering Arrow versus missing a Wolf on Thrall, it feels twice as bad. There's a Wolf, I'm just like, I can still zap you with my lightning. It's fine.
I got to do something for the first time this week on Vala, actually. We were fighting triple tank Ariel, and I went Vala with that double support on Volskaya, and I knew it was going to last a very, very long time, so I went auto attack build Vala on purpose, not as some sort of like quick match madman going to go solo the top lane auto attack style, like actually planning to do an auto attack build Vala with Rancor. I've never ever taken Rancor in my whole life.
Really? Where were you during the early days of this game?
Letting other people do that. I had Gazlo to play and Asmodan and stuff like that.
God, that's all I was doing in Tech Alpha before you showed me the way of the Rainer.
Oh my goodness, Rancor was I wouldn't do it again outside that situation, but oh my God, what a blast. I see why those Valas just sit there all day playing quick match, dreaming for the one game where they get to actually win. But it's so worth it when it goes off well. But man, Hungry Arrow just has more bases covered.
Yes, it does. It's more of a Swiss Army knife. Well, let's shift gears, man. Let's talk about lore, because the lore has rolled out. It's here. The Ravenlord comic was dropped, as well as a new, longer than I expected it to be, video from DeBeery and Kevin Johnson.
Yeah, they really sat down and hashed it out a little mysteriously. Shared their hopes.
Yeah, there wasn't much to glean from the video. It was kind of explaining something that I think feels like it was already explained by the fact that this comic came out and then we got the Dark Nexus event. Like the video kind of just tells you that that's happening, more or less, right?
Yeah.
It probably paints a clearer picture than it would have if they were just like, here's a comic, here's a Dark Nexus event, and figure out that these two are connected. But yeah, so did you read the comic?
I did. I think the video maybe was made to reassure people that this is all for fun. We are not messing with the competitiveness of the game, and this is an entirely different team enjoying making these products. We are not pulling from Balance or HGC to create this fun new world.
Did that ever cross your mind as a possibility?
No, but I've been through this rodeo before. I don't sit in my home chair going, "Who drew this? Why aren't they animating the new cinematic?" It's, well, that's concept art, and then there's animating.
All right, fair. I get it. My point is, I wouldn't expect anyone who deals in Balance to go write a comic.
No.
Not saying it's impossible. There's some balance designers on Heroes, and like that's their dream. Like, oh, they're on the side, they're just working on the sweet ass comic. But yeah, that wasn't my thought. Whatever the case is, it was interesting. It didn't, blow my socks off or anything.
Well, I actually ended up reaching out to some of my comic friends to take a look at it just because I don't read a lot of comics. And this has no ads in it, which immediately puts it above most comic books that I've experienced in my life. But they're always so short and like weekly, like Cubby comics, like guys who go every week and pick up their pile and they go through it very fast and they're enjoying lots of different stories at once. And it was explained to me that the shortness of the comic doesn't really matter to the content because each image is telling a story that might be an hour long in between it. And things can seem resolved. I hate you. No, you don't. Okay. In 3 panels. But you kind of imagine on top of it a greater world, a greater interaction.
As someone who reads comics, that is not how I read them.
No?
No. I read them pretty literally.
So so you were a little overwhelmed by this guy?
Not overwhelmed. I just thought, it didn't. What I think is the coolest about this is the connection between the comic rolling out and actually getting an event in game simultaneously that actually ties in to stuff that we see in the comic. Either of these things by themselves seems pretty inconsequential. Combining the two and then listening to Tiberi and Johnson geek out about it is surprisingly high concept. It's like, this is like Heroes of the Storm's version of a rock opera. It's just like, oh yeah, I just got that new Coheed and Cambria album. I just like the band. And then like a hardcore fan is like, no, but there's like a comic that goes with it. And it's the next chapter from the prior one. And it's just this layer that you didn't even know was there. And you probably don't even need to enjoy it. But when you dig deeper, it's kind of crazy that it even happened.
Well, take me back to Sir Murgleton. Was that his name?
Sir Murgleton?
Yeah, the Adventurer League dude.
Oh.
The Murloc.
Oh, God. Oh, what is his name? Was it Sir Finley? Sir Finley Murgleton. Yeah. What about him?
It's curious to see almost a fear that they're introducing their own lore into this game, where I feel like Hearthstone was really celebrating making up its own stuff and even added to the World of Warcraft. It seems like they keep reassuring us that we're not going to be moving backwards. This is all for fun.
I'm not sure what to add to that. I think I would just say yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. So for me, like the point, actually what I was going to bring to this, and I probably should have just let you know ahead of time, but I feel like they're going in the wrong direction.
Oh.
Like it feels to me like it's very hard not to look at this and not draw analogies to theme parks. Like,
right.
To me, this feels like all the theme parks right now have figured out that we as visitors just want to visit the worlds from the movies that we love. But when Disney started, it was just generic America with generic Adventureland with generic Fantasyland, right? It feels like with this that Heroes is doing that backwards. We started Heroes, or maybe more I guess we started Heroes with generic. Then we finally started getting more bespoke, like battlegrounds from specific universes in Blizzard. And now it seems we're going back. It seems we're going back to Main Street USA rather than Azeroth, rather than Caprulo Sector, etc., etc. Whereas I'm sitting here just feverishly, still impatiently awaiting my Warcraft battleground. And also, I would like battlegrounds where they just take Warcraft and Overwatch and slam them together.
Yeah, I agree with you. And your Disney analogy is very spot on. I always wondered why they're like, check it out, it's French Louisiana architecture. And you're like, well, I'm in Orlando. It's not that far away. What are you trying to show me? Like, I can go to Las Vegas and see the Eiffel Tower. That's like kind of special, but that's not around the corner.
Yeah.
For me, like, what really struck me weird about this was just the Raven Lord's existence. We had him well before Medivh entered this game, but he's operating just like Medivh by turning into a raven, flying around, having a staff, and working with crystal magic. Like, everyone in World of Warcraft trips over a stone and gets corrupted every day. Why couldn't we just have, Medivh having a tough time with someone whispering in his head here. What's with Granny Goodness? Where'd she come from? Ravenlord has an assistant. Who?
Why?
I mean, it's cute.
So to that, like, it's like, to me, I'm like, it's fine, it's whatever, it's very popcorn, but why can't you just have fun and popcorn with the existing properties, which is the entire reason we showed up to this game in the first place?
Right, and my human response is, I think they're under a lot of stress, much like the Hearthstone team was during League of Adventurers or Explorers or whatever.
Yep.
Explorers, yes.
Yep.
And they wanted to break out. They didn't want to feel confined by another property. This is their team, and they've been working on this game for how long? And darn it, we need our own characters, and that'll be fun for us. I also like that he's like, show me the nearby realms. And you got, like, Sky Temple Man, whatever his name is, whipping servants. You got Blackheart's Bay counting up those doubloons so he can turn the cannons on the foes. You got Flower Lady from the garden place checking out her flowers. And then you got Alex and Hanzo hanging out in some dimension of their own. So
yeah, I think it's the Lady of Thorns, isn't it? Is this our first time ever actually seeing her?
I think so. Yeah,
I think it is. Cool looking. I want to see a full illustration. Yeah, you've got Alex Strauss and Hanzo. I think that was just a nod to their cinematic, because that was the first cinematic we saw that looked like it took place in the Nexus and not in, like the Diva one was just an Overwatch map, right?
That's true.
Diva Video was just an Overwatch map. Varian Ragnaros one was Molten Core. The Hanzo and Alex Strauss one took place in the Nexus itself. Looked like Dragonshire. May even have been confirmed. I don't remember. But that's what I saw that as. It's like, hey, it's a wink and a nod to the cinematic. This is just another place in the Nexus. Another, seeing what's happening. Kind of ties it all together. But it's a nitpick, right? At the end of the day, this is not the biggest deal happening in Heroes of the Storm. But to me, I'm just like, well, no, I just want Heroes to be my Blizzard theme park.
Well, and this entire Dark Nexus event that's going alongside the comic right now feels like a tech event, a showing off of things that you're not going to use around the home but are really cool, like watching robots open doors. The background, the red in this game right now, looks awesome. And the two skins they put out look great, and the mounts look great. But there's no quest, and there's no new hero to tie to it, and it feels a little empty, but I understand that because we built the technology to change our background, perhaps.
Well, and we knew this was coming. We knew that when they said they were going to take more time between heroes, that the new emphasis was going to be on skin events, much like Mechastorm or like the Call of Kel'Thuzad. Granted, Kel'Thuzad, we got Kel'Thuzad, but everything else in there, and they made a very big deal about it, was about the skins that came with it.
Yeah.
So we knew this was coming. So to me, there's nothing about... The only thing about this that surprises me is that it's tied directly into the comic. And I think that's pretty cool, even if I'd like to see the comics maybe go a different direction.
True, and it may have just been that they touched on something that's very exciting to me, which is villain events. You got your House of Mouse, House of Villains kind of stuff, Disney t-shirts and whatnot. And you only invite Cruella de Vil and Hades. Like, they're great characters, sure, but we only invited two of them. That seems kind of weird.
Well, in the comic, it looked like Dahaka showed up too, but he killed him.
That's Dahaka. Okay, I can see that. I thought he just ate a dinosaur for some reason.
No, it looked like Dahaka to me. I'm pretty sure that's Dahaka.
Yeah.
And it wasn't the Gravekeeper, it was Ravenlord.
Are they like, is Dahaka ready? Crud, kill him in the comic. Okay, no one gets the skin.
So as I was reading I had already seen the skins when I started reading the comic, and I'm like, why is Dahaka in there? And then the next cell, he kills him. I'm like, oh, that makes sense. And I had fun with that. That was a fun little, this feels very comic booky.
And Dahaka doesn't really need any skins, does he? He's got quite a few.
Yeah, I think he's all right. God, these Gul'dan and these LRX skins are great. But yeah, whatever the case is, it's fun.
Yeah, and if we even get 2 skins and 2 mounts with the future versions of this, the other Realm Lord events, if those are coming, that'd be really awesome. And I would really look forward to Pirate Skeleton World. And not sure what we're going to do with Garden World, but I want that Pirate Skeleton World.
I would be down for a pirate event. That sounds like a lot of fun.
And there's clearly some sort of event coming. I feel like this is just a Xel'Naga or another villain being added to the game.
Sorry, I was adjusting my mic. Wasn't aware of this.
Well, he's looking in the portals of the future, and he's like, "It's coming! The awful apocalypse is on its way."
Oh, God, I don't know. Maybe we're getting. I could see a Xel'Naga hero.
And we got Orphea mentioned. We'll see where it goes, man.
Yeah, I'm just kind of along for the ride.
Exactly.
And then we've got the event going on right now. The skins and the mounts have already been added. They're pretty sweet. There's a bundle. Yada, yada, yada. You're going to be part of a streamer event next week.
Already have been.
Oh, it was this week. Right.
Yes, it's come and gone. In fact, it's going all weekend, all today, and you should definitely check it out. They have lots and lots of codes to give away. Giving away codes for these Alarak and Gul'dan skins. So check your launcher, see if you can find who's streaming at the time. They did a great job putting up this event. Congratulations to Lashes for pulling it off. I had an awesome time in mine yesterday.
Oh, that's for some reason I thought it was next Wednesday. It was yesterday. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, rad. Yeah, it's going through Saturday, I believe. So keep an eye on the Dark Nexus event and grab yourself some codes. Before we move into strategy, we have some patrons to thank. Patreon.com/ITN is the place you can go to subscribe to Into the Nexus. As we always mention, the show will continue being free. But if you'd like to opt in to give $1 an episode, $2 an episode, whatever it is that works for you, it helps us out greatly. It directly supports us. Kyle and I do this as a living. Not just this show. We do multiple shows, but this is a big part of it. So and anyone that signs up on the Patreon, it helps a ton. And we have a few newer patrons to thank. Thank you to Kyle T, Livingston P, and James F. Thank you for the support, guys.
It was great getting to do an episode last week with Dunk Train. Looking forward to hitting that goal again over on the Patreon. If you get a chance to sign up, check it out. But also, next week is going to be the Patreon Bonanza, where we head into Team League and stream that later that night. So next Thursday night, check out the Patreon post, sign up, take a slot. We're adding more slots even because last time was so darn awesome and so darn efficient. Well done, everybody, on keeping to the schedule.
Yep. All right, well, let's move into strategy.
Choose a talent.
Choose a talent.
Talent? Ah, that seems generous.
Yeah, no clue what that means.
Kyle, you want to talk about a tier list, but not just any tier list.
Yes, Grubby's silver tier list was being passed around this week, and I love that he put this together, talking about what sort of heroes can be very powerful in between the bronze and gold brackets. There's a lot to take in here. There's always going to be personal preference. There's some things on here that I'm like, what? And then you realize Grubby plays a lot of Samuro and is really good at them. You go, oh, okay. And same with my tier list, right? When I put together what you should be playing in silver, I put Blaze in the top of my list because I play a lot of Blaze, not even thinking, how many interactions have I avoided and understood through game knowledge using my bunker? Maybe that's not really a new character, actually.
Yeah. So preface this always with the, take tier lists with a grain of salt and obviously take your own personal preferences and ability into context. But yeah, let's take a look at this. I mean, anything besides Samuro that just sticks out to you as completely bizarre?
Not really. That's the main one. The one that, on my kind of personal list, you go, what? But then you realize that he plays a lot of that. And it is impactful, right? When you're thinking about using game knowledge, Samuro can take a lot of camps. He has a lot of push power. If you go with the Whirlwind Blade Dance? What is this spinny thing even called?
Blade Storm?
I don't play him for that.
I don't either.
Blade Storm. Yeah, I play him for Illusion Master because that's fun and hard work. And I do it once in a while like Lost Vikings. Blade Storm. You actually do spell damage, so your counters of being only auto attack kind of go away, and you can really have a heavy impact there. It's a really great Divine Shield target, a great call to action for the rest of the team, and that's the real thing to take from this whole list. Everything in the top tier, Lili, Gazlo, Nazebo, Diablo, Artanis, Phoenix, Samuro, Ragnaros, Butcher, Tracer, Thrall, Kael'thas, Jaina, and Malthael. Every single one of those has a high impact heroic, or in the case of Tracer, just high impact in general. And a heroic's nice, but it's part of your base kit from the start of the game, so don't worry about it too much. Or you can add some giant killer to it, and then it's great. So there's lots of ways to impact when taking these characters. Artanis, probably one of the other oddballs out. Blinds, maybe complicated. Space Laser, tough to pick a target, but amateur opponents on his kit. He's a great solo laner in the lower leagues. You're going to be able to just do a lot.
Yeah, looking at it, you can almost see, like, if you work your way from the bottom tier all the way up to the top, it's kind of goes in order of difficulty. It seems like the most complex heroes, for the most part, I'm generalizing here, are lower on this list.
Yeah, there'll be some things that certainly I think golds and above will go, are you insane, Grubby? But you just give it a little bit of thought, right? Malfurion, ETC, bottom tier for Grubby here. And that's understandable because ETC is very vulnerable. And getting a sweet mosh only really matters if there's people in the area to target it and respond to what you're making. You know, same with Malfurion, right? You can land some sweet roots, but who's going to respond to them? You can put all those sweet heals out for your Tracer, but is she aggressive enough to even take advantage of that?
Yeah. Yeah. That being said, I feel like we're getting further and further away from things like roots and mosh pit happening where there's no one to follow up on it. Because, I don't know, I feel like we're in a world now where in what universe is Malfurion throwing down roots where he's not near teammates? He's a support. He's probably with someone else. And ETC is a tank. He's probably engaging for the team.
Definitely. And certainly with that Malfurion point there, the way they've reworked his Moonfire to heal more when he's got heals on other people just encourages you to be in the area. Same with Deckard Cain, right? Take Deckard Cain to solo lane. Awful idea. You're missing out on a lot of your power. So why even do it? And I think that's a great design decision. ETC can use his level 1 talents to spread blocks or heals to the area around him. Those are as effective as you use them. So I do agree with stuff like that. Plus, he put the Shimada brothers in the bottom tier, which I think everyone's just kind of having a celebration over, seeing them removed from the minds of lower tier players who are constantly told to get good.
Yeah, again, it's not like his word is in stone, right? But it's a kind of a good place to put your head. And again, unless that's something that you're passionate about, those are heroes that you want to play. But I think you bring up a good point, which is, you know, put it out of your mind if you feel pressured to play those types of heroes.
Well, and then we start to look at his supports and his tanks, and they're all very decisive. Diablo Lily are the really only main support, main tank, and even a struggle to say those words in some ways, on tier 1 for him. The other ones are things like Brightwing, Stukov, Lucio, and then our big kind of area tanks, or at least direct tanks, Garrosh and Johanna, even a Nubarak, Blaze. These are all very powerful CCs and area effect and more general healing than something that takes a lot more decision making, that he has a lot deeper in the tree. Tier 2 in this case, medics and Uthers and Rhaegars and all that sort of thing.
Yeah. I like his wording too. For tier 1, he calls it powerful. Tier 2, he calls it viable. And that's where I would put Uther, right? You and I are both fans of Uther. But I think we also are very aware of the fact that he's not for everybody, and he's definitely not for every situation.
Right. And stars align in the draft for an Uther, and you can't really take that early. That's one of the nice things about this. And his specialists are also really narrow. All of his specialists are, if you want to say it, burst specialists that he recommends. Gazlo, Nazebo, Hammer, Probius, Zul, Murky. These are all people, and those were the top 2 tiers. Those are all specialists who can run in a lane, blow it up, and get out of there. Or at least stay safe in a sustained situation like Hammer. Anybody else like Zagara with summons who has to spend a while on it, even Sylvanas, those are much lower tier too. So there's a lot of actionable stuff when you think about this tier list. Of course, play your own business. I love that Zul'jin's as high as it is, right? But
yes, yeah, I think that this is a good place to talk about. Like, take your own ability into consideration. Because, like, look at this, and if you see a hero that's lower that you play a lot of, that you have a positive win rate for, just play the mental game of just moving it up on your own. I would put Zagara higher for myself personally. I totally understand why it's listed there, though.
Exactly. And we're talking about our own understandings of interactions and all the sort of counters that you've come up with in your own head. Way more powerful than anything any tier list can possibly teach you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I don't think this is a bad place to start, or just if you just want some inspiration or some structure to your thought process of maybe trying to learn some new heroes.
We talked about this in the past as well, but we are expanding our hero pool always. The reworks and talent changes could always be on the horizon. Depending on your game time, this is a great list to expand your roster. But what's really powerful right now, near the mid-end of the season, is just being really good at one or two things.
Yep. That's what I've been doing. It's been working out all right. Bruising and tanking.
CCing, right?
Yep. I like feeling like the conductor at the end of the day.
Yeah.
That's my jam. But we got links in the show notes. It's on the subreddit. It is so you can find it. We have links in the show notes. You can always find those by going to amove.tv and looking for the most recent episode post for Into the Nexus is always linked at the very bottom. You can look at the exact Google Doc that Kyle and I used to make the podcast happen. So go check that out if you haven't been doing it. Let's wrap this up with an email or two.
Darkness stopped calling.
Hold on. Darkness just texted me.
Okay, tell him I'm not here.
You can send your emails to itncast@gmail.com. And by all means, send them in. I would really like to hear some thoughts on the lore.
I agree, particularly if you are a connoisseur of that sort of thing. If you're really into World of Warcraft lore, if you're a big comic fan, I'd love to hear your take on where we're going with all this.
Yeah. But I noticed a trend in our inbox this week, so I thought I'd pull a couple of emails in here, pare them down a bit. There more folks wrote in about this. I'm not going to... I didn't pull every single email, but I saw a lot of emails sitting in our inbox about toxicity, Kyle. So I figured now might be as good a time as ever to kind of revisit this topic. It's a topic that comes up on Into the Nexus from time to time because it's an online game. So this is going to come up. But I'm going to pull some emails from Drizzling Rose and Tufta, this is actually part of Tufta's email from last week that we didn't include because we were taking a different route with what we wanted to talk about. But anyway, I'll start off with Drizzling Rose's email. Rose writes in and says, I have a question on how you handle flamers. Personally, I have a hard time dealing with them. Most of the time, I'm good at reporting and blocking them right away. But sometimes when they start off softer, I say to myself it's nothing, but then they amp up the hatefulness and it's too late, or I give them excuses like, well, I never claimed to be good. But then they unleash all their stupid, and I'm hit hard by that. I've had more ranked games where I sobbed as the game ended. Doesn't matter if we won or not, the match, and often my day, was ruined. Do you have any tips on how to handle this? I love the game so much, but some people make it so sad to play. And I'm going to also read Tufta's email here. Tufta said, hi, Garrett and Kyle. My first question relates to toxicity. If you want to hear Tufta's second question, it's actually in last week's episode. I acknowledge that bad attitudes are going to be in most games, and regardless of whether it is targeted at my performance or in allies, I find it hard to keep my fingers from trying to stick up for myself or my allies. Do you think just immediately muting / reporting and moving on is the best case, or do you think there is any merit to sticking up for each other? Thank you both again, and I look forward to downloading ITN and Weak Sauce each week. Yeah, man, I've got a couple thoughts here. To Tufta's, I think he starts to land on something, and I would like to steer it in a slightly different direction, and that's the defending of your allies, because that's noble. Like, you can't... I have nothing bad to say about that. And it's, I think, a really awesome place for someone's brain to go naturally whenever vitriol comes up in internet culture. What I find is, the time and time again in this game is, anytime you directly go against someone, you contradict someone, no matter what it is, whether they're at fault or not. Let's just say, for the purpose of this conversation, let's just operate as if someone else is at fault, just to make this conversation a little simpler. But whatever the case is, anytime you actively push back against that, it's just adding fuel to the fire of vitriol, right? Even if you yourself are not being toxic. So even if you're coming to someone's aid of, oh no, they're doing, so-and-so's doing great or whatever, I would see that in the direction of make friends. Like, if you are going to type, make it specifically just about lifting someone else up. Give it some, don't type directly in response to the vitriol that's coming in. And when you see someone who is being targeted by that vitriol, do something good, point it out, but don't point it out as like in a direct opposition to the troll in your group.
Right. And that's the key point, is it can't add to the information that is being argued over. It has to be a stop. And for me, something I've used for years is that's too much, quote unquote, someone's just losing their crud, completely blasting. That's too much. And that's all it is. Just type that out and then leave it there. If they continue to go, they are nuts. And that's fine, because now we've acknowledged we've given them the line. If you pass this line, you're insane. And then they jump over the line and you go, okay. And then we're not in a emotional state anymore. We can start to block that person off.
Yeah. Yeah. My other favorite is to just announce publicly, like, I muted that person. And more often than not, I end up yucking it up with the other 3 members of the team.
I find that does lead to more combative attitudes, but you're right. If it's kind of I need the rest of this team functional. You, Varian, angry in the top lane, we're all willing to play. Let's block Varian and have fun here. And that's easier with voice chat. And sometimes even easier if the rager isn't in the voice chat, because then you can all have a bit of a giggle at the guy who wasn't even taking it seriously enough to talk to the rest of the team.
Right. I don't put I mute or silence the person before I write, block that person. It's I don't care if they know that I muted them or not. It's more of a trying to prod my team into, hey, instead of, I'm trying to stem the reaction from the other 3 members of the team.
What's really strange to me in lower leagues, and when I see these conversations come up in my teaching scenarios, what often happens is someone's mad that somebody's feeding. Gazlo is overstepping the tank and dying early. And Vala's response to that is to dance 2 miles away in circles while Gazlo dies. The correct thing to do there is to cut off Gazlo if he's being noisy, and then acknowledge that Gazlo's health is now part of the tank's health. And until Gazlo dies, that enemy team loves killing Gazlo so much that you have free reign of the map, and they're not even going to look at you. You can get away with actual murder. It's what you're doing out there. And until Gazlo's dead, nobody's watching you. And that is a really powerful tool to use in lower leagues. But we say this machine is broken, no part of it is functional, game's lost.
Yeah, it's interesting. This is always such an imperfect conversation, because there's so many different routes that should be addressed, right? Like, a lot of it comes down to us, and I feel like it should always be said that we just need to try to be better. Whatever it is, whoever you are out there, if you are a parent, for the love of God, please observe your child's gaming habits. I really think a lot of these people come from unattended children. Whether they're currently unattended children or were trained this behavior by being unattended children as they're coming up under
we're unattended, never corrected, and then move into the future.
Yeah. So please monitor your child before they grow up to call me terrible names online.
It's like the dentist, man. They're always like, you don't floss correctly. I'm like, well, you taught me when I was in kindergarten. I'm just doing it the same since then. You gotta freshen it up once in a while.
Right. That's part of it. I mean, the other part of it is we do need to expect the proper tools from the people that make our games, and Blizzard is on that path. They're actively trying. We have seen new tools added very recently. It can absolutely go farther. It sounds like they are going to be pushing it further. Time will tell on that front. But then also kind of going back to Rose's comments, I mean, if it gets to the point where it makes you feel this bad about something that you enjoy, that happens to me, I uncheck team chat. There are times, there are weeks, sometimes months, where I'm just like, yep, I don't need chat this week or this month. And it's, I don't know, it feels like you're letting them win, but the other, I don't know, to me, it's a personal preference. How much effort do I feel like going through? Do I feel like going to each game, possibly having to mute everyone? Or do I just want to focus on myself? And that's the other thing I wanted to bring up was the self-focus, especially like if you are playing this game strictly through pickup games and you're not playing Team League or you're not queuing on ranked or quick match with friends, there's a lot of variables. There's a lot more variables. And no matter what, you have to focus on yourself. And that ties into the Nexus's mantra, I think, over the entire life of this show, where it was, for the majority of it, this is about climbing in Hero League, right? That's our goal. At the end of the day is to make you a little bit better at Hero League. And that's always going to be a pickup game. You're always going to be solo for now. Back in the day, we used to be able to queue up with a friend, right? But you can't do that anymore. So you just need to focus on yourself. I don't know. I was watching a drag race show on Netflix, and one person said, you don't race the other racers, you just drive your car. And it's not a perfect analogy because you're not trying to beat your other teammates. But when it can become combative, I think the healthiest thing to do is just focus on yourself.
Right, and let those things bounce off you, as awful as they are. I mean, I know Drizzling Rose from hanging out with her on Twitter all the time. We have a lot of good jokes back and forth. She loves this game, and we love joking about it. So it's so sad to hear that she's had these awful experiences. And I don't want to say something as lame as never say I do this for fun. Never say, well, I never said I was good, right? Like those are they're fine. They're 100% human, great things to say to get someone off your back, but they keep coming, particularly in a ranked environment, because they're saying, well, you need to go back to whatever AI quick match and learn before you're in my game. And that's their own problems. But God, I still remember beta when this hammer got to me. And everything I did was wrong in this hammer's eyes. And it drove me nuts. It was an unsolved puzzle. And then the game ended and they were gone from my life. And that made it worse because I couldn't resolve that moment of imperfection of being told I couldn't win that battle. So it still goes on in my head. Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night and be like, oh, Hammer's telling me oh, geez, okay. It's not even the same meta anymore. That was 4 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, I can get that. It's, I don't know. I would just tie that into my don't push back at a certain point. Because if it gets to the point where it's that bad, you're not going to change that person.
And I think a lot of it comes down to embarrassment, and acknowledging that for yourself is going to be the biggest step in healing. It's a video game. We're all here to have fun, but it sounds mad serious, and it's true. When you walk away, that hurts so bad because you're embarrassed and they called you out on it. And I've lost my solo lane Braxis, and I've had guys who've been awesome. And I'm like, oh, I just can't take this, Sonya. I just can't. I'm sorry. We lost this game. And they're like, it happens. But I still walk away feeling awful. If someone had ragged me about that situation, that cuts deep. And I have to immediately repeat over and over that I am currently embarrassed and I am feeling shame. And for me, that goes to anger because, I've kind of been conditioned to be, the tough guy. And don't get sad. You got to, and you just kind of, that's what culture has taught me to do with that. And my immediate reaction could have been and was in the past to tight back and become angry. But now you just keep acknowledging, put it on yourself, and get back on the horse sooner rather than later. Because you love this game. You love it, and you don't want to let them ruin it, and you got to get back on fast.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, it's the counter argument or like the criticism to this could be that it's unfair, and it is. But with the tools available to us at this very moment, there's only so many routes to go. So, I mean, I don't know. I played a lot of Call of Duty on the Xbox 360. That was way worse.
I bet you were exposed to some things.
Yes, it was so bad. It was so freaking bad, and I just got in the habit of, It's just like this is this player base, and I'm just gonna have to contend with it and be very fast with my mute button.
Well, and we also have a really bizarre population, and it's being highlighted right now by a lot of our pros who are practicing in Hero League, but also the pros coaches. Coaches have recently apparently been giving gold accounts with level 5 heroes across it so that they can, help train and be with their teams all the time. That means they now, if they're streamers, have accounts to level up in gold. And it's not always going swimmingly. And that's nothing against them. And it's not really anything to do with toxicity either. Some cases maybe, but really not. It's the fact that you are on a team and you have expectations. And when pros play Hero League, they often aren't that good. And they end up in plat and they wonder what's wrong with everyone else around them. We simply do not roam around as a tight little fist-bumping group of 4 at all times, believing in each other. We are all questioning each other constantly and trying to find out who's good enough to cast a divine shield on. It's a very different environment, so people have a lot of made-up expectations, and they are going to use those on you. And HGC is really good right now, which is going to make this even worse, particularly for Drizzling Rose, who's in Masters. She's going to experience a lot of people going, well, why do you even want that hero? I'm watching HGC, it's entertaining, and the drafts are powerful.
Yeah. I think you tie that in too last week when we were talking about how you just need to adapt. I think a lot of losses in this game are from 2 competing ideals. We come back to it time and time again. Everyone in on a bad idea is better than 2 people on correct ideas.
Exactly.
So, yeah. Good luck out there. Let us know how any of this pans out, if it's helpful in any way. Because I want everyone to be stoked. I want everyone to get in and be excited about the next game of Heroes.
And I think we're getting there. And I think the features have advanced. We just don't have the feedback yet to know that our reports are happening. And I report maybe a person a month. All honesty. It's not something that happens a lot. I'm thick-skinned, maybe. I let a lot just kind of slide off. In particular, if the problem with that hammer was they were right, I sucked. It was beta, I sucked. That doesn't happen nowadays because usually if someone's ragging me for business, I'm like, I'm great. It's fine. I'm great. We're doing fine. This is beyond my control. We're 3 levels down. What do you expect?
I definitely report people more than you.
Well, and I appreciate you doing that. And there's a lot of people in my chat that call for reports to roll out, and I don't issue them because they kept playing. And that's all that matters to me. You participating, you can call everybody names all day, but if you're at the team fight, that means you're still trying. And I know lots of people who complain all day long while trying their butts off.
I think it's fine to a certain degree, but when you start attacking other people and you're still playing, it deserves a report.
That's more of just a fascination with how fast they can type. I do feel like I'm at a disadvantage at times. I've seen some of you guys go. I mean, even Grubby on his stream. My God, that man can type fast. Makes sense being a StarCraft pro, and I've got finger dyslexia, so I got to aim carefully. But Jesus. Shelly. He's writing books. He's telling them exactly what lanes to soak. I'm pinging top, hoping somebody's listening.
I love that you're just like, I would be offended by your vitriol, but how are you typing this fast while continuing the micro?
It's amazing, really.
Well done,
Be an
Kyle.
author.
Well, I think this more or less wraps up this episode. I meant to mention at the top, folks, pardon our dust. I'm having to migrate where we host our shows. It shouldn't affect new episodes, but expect archived episodes to die very soon. And then to slowly come back online, because it's just there's no way I can do it without hand by hand relinking each and every single episode of every podcast I've ever done. But on the bright side, A-Move podcasts are now on SoundCloud.
Nice.
So if you would prefer SoundCloud, it's up over there. Just look for amove.tv podcasts. You should find it, and it's a mega feed. It's going to have everything, but as far as the individual Into the Nexus feed, it'll remain the same. The feed address is not changing, and I'm just going to be relinking to the SoundCloud files. So go ahead and check that out. Other than that, as always, thank you to our badass patrons. You can become an Into the Nexus patron and support Kyle, myself, Jeff Kanata, and Dunk once we get back to that goal over at patreon.com/ITN. Huge thanks to our producers, Declan H and Cheesy Bob. You guys are awesome. We are doing signups for the next Bonanza for next Thursday. That is up also at patreon.com/ITN. So if you want to play Team League with us, head on over there and sign up.
Oh, you better do it fast. There's 3 spots left.
All right, run. Right. I have a feeling it'll be finished by the end of this ramble live. So if you're listening on podcast, it has probably already filled up. Anyways, catch us live Thursday nights at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Twitch.tv/AMOVTV is where to catch that. You can find us on Twitter at ITNcast. Kyle, you do other stuff. A lot of it is Heroes related. Not all of it is, though. Where can folks find it?
You can find me over at this weekend. Let's do twitch.tv/frogpants. It's back. There will be Dungeons Returns. I guess anything would be a spoiler, so I'll avoid that since it is a story-based show, but you should check it out, Dungeons & Dragons Podcast, where I get to play Vorel the Lizardman. You should also check out yesterday's games over at twitch.tv/Kyle Fergusson. The Evil Kyle games I broadcast live, or my evil brother did, from inside a crystal. And I did lots of fun giveaways, and you should check out those games because they were a delight.
Oh, you're such a dork. I love you.
I know. I can't believe I've gotten the feedback. Kyle's stream is sometimes too nerdy. It's like, what are we even doing here, bros? Like, I'm streaming video games in a room by myself so we can all talk about video games. It's all there is.
Oh, that's so good. Folks, Kyle and I do a morning show on Mondays called Week Sauce. It's all one word, and week is spelled like days of the week. That's WEEK sauce, all one word. It's a really fun show. We talk about everything except Heroes of the Storm. It's usually extremely nerdy. This last week we had, we basically fought each other about Infinity War.
Yes.
I think it was the most heated conversation you and I have ever had.
I think so, yeah. I mean, still, friendly.
Yeah. It's not like you were calling me an ass and I was calling you a jerkwad.
Yeah.
But, it was fun. I really enjoyed that talk. And most of the feedback has been nice. It went about 5 days before the Garrett's an idiot comments started showing up.
I think both arguments have merit. It's been fun hearing about that movie. Certainly won't spoil it here.
No. So go check out Weak Sauce. Other than that, amove.tv for all of the other podcasts. And you can find my graphic design portfolio at nomoonart.com. Taking commissions for designs over there. You can also book an hour lesson with me if you want to talk about things like podcasting, YouTube thumbnails, anything of that nature. nomoonart.com. That's going to do it for this episode. Thank you all so much for listening. Thanks again to our patrons. And until next time, good luck and have fun.
Take care.